We are on day 30 of my carrot radish planting in a bin, and you can see the carrots here are coming up, and they're 2 inches tall, and my radishes are getting pretty big here. So today my job is going to be thinning these plants to be the correct distance apart. So my icicle radishes, it says when plants have 3 or 4 leaves, thin to 1 inch apart. I am going to do that. It's always good on measurements to know the measurements of various parts of your body. So for example, from here to here is 6 inches. From here to here is 8 with my hand, and 1 inch is this distance right here. Knowing that, I don't have to get out a ruler. I don't have to have marks on sticks or anything like that. I can just figure it out using my own hands as measurement devices. The radishes are these tall guys right here. You can see this one has 3 leaves on it, so it's time to start thinning these. I did a pretty good job of planting them 1 inch apart, so I'm not going to need to do much thinning. I do want to mention that I don't exactly follow the rules with this. The common idea is to take some scissors and cut off the ones that you don't want. Therefore, you're not disturbing the roots of the ones that you are keeping. However, when they're really small like this, especially when I do my carrots and they're so tiny, if I can gently pull, if it breaks off, then it's the same as cutting. And if I can very gently tease them out, I can actually plant them somewhere else. So for example, I planted the same kind of carrot on the outer 2 rows. On this one, you can see that I have quite the cluster of little plants that I'm going to have to thin along this row. But when we look at the back row, there's a big gap here. Then I have a few plants. Then there's a big gap here. I have like 2 plants, a gap, 1 plant, a big gap, and another plant. What I'm thinking is, when I'm thinning the plants, like for example down here, if I gently pull and the root comes out, I can replant that little baby in a space and perhaps get more. My other option would be to reseed in between. The problem I have with that is then they're all different ages in the same row, and I have a hard time remembering which is which. Once their tops get pretty big, it's hard to tell like which one's ready to harvest, which one's a month later, etc. I would prefer to do it the way I just explained. So we're going to start with our radishes here, and they need to be 1 inch apart. All right, here we go, 1 inch apart. So these guys are all good. These are a little close right here, these 2. So I think I'm going to take this one out and see, he broke off. Probably that one's done. All right, that one's a little close. Inch, inch, inch. This guy's out of his row, so I'm going to pull him out. And let's see, I'm taking the smallest ones. It's interesting, they're a little smaller closer I get toward the door, which is going to be cooler. These are definitely close. I'm keeping a little root. I'm going to take this guy out. All right, so I didn't get super great roots. I don't know how well I can replant these, but I'll give it a whirl over in one of my little bins behind us in my greenhouse. So that's the radishes. Down the middle of my carrot and radish bin, I planted these Danvers carrots that are actually a container variety, and I planted them 30 days ago. It says it's 75 days from harvest. 3 inches between plants. I'm going to need to thin out my carrots quite a bit. My Danvers carrots are here, this middle row of carrots, and I'm supposed to thin them to 3 inches apart, which is pretty far apart. I'm gonna have lots of little microgreens here. Trying to keep the larger, pinch off the smaller ones. When they're really small like this, you don't have to worry so much about them disturbing the soil. They just break off, they're so tiny. Let's see that one. All right, so I think that's a pretty good spacing on those. So let's check our other carrot variety. So I planted the rainbow carrots here and over here, and they come rainbow mix variety, which comes in all different colors. I find the white ones and the purple ones and the yellow ones to be much sweeter than the orange carrots. The spacing on this one is also 3 inches, and the seeds are so small. I seeded pretty thickly. Now over here I have big spaces where not much came up, so I'm not going to need to thin there. But here I have quite a few, so I'm going to spread those out a bit. And this side is really a disaster. I don't know what I was thinking. So what I'm going to do here is, because I have just so many of these in here, I'm going to see if I can loosen them a little bit. And get the roots out as well as the little seedling. Where there's 2 growing together, there tend to be large and small, and I'm keeping the larger ones that came up first. All right, so that one's got a pretty good little root on it. And I've got a big space over here, so I'm gonna try moving him over here, see if he makes it. If he doesn't, that's okay too. I'm thinning on the cautious side. I'm probably not thinning enough. I'm thinning maybe 1.5 inches apart instead of 3 inches apart, which is not great. All right, let's see if I can move like this one to back here. Let's see how he does. These are probably still a little close, but I can always come back and thin again. So the carrots are supposed to be 3 inches apart, so I got a lot bigger spacing on them than I do on the radishes, which say 1 inch apart. So you can see, all right, those carrots are too close. Hate to take out the big one, but here we go. These guys. Looks a bit better.